Wednesday, so let's chat. And I'm Kanan Chandran. I'm the publisher of stormasia.com, presenter of the Wednesday Web Chat series. It's a 45-minute web chat which takes place every Wednesday from 12:45 and discusses a variety of topics. You can check out our previous sessions on the stormasia.com. That's storm-asia.com. For today, we are looking at raising funds for your business. I think many of you would have been at home for quite a bit, had a lot of time to think about what you want to do. Some may want to consider a switch in career. Some may want to do something they are passionate about. So they might have come up with a brilliant idea. Can you monetize that? Can you get somebody to be part of the journey and build on your idea? So we've got two entrepreneurs who've done that and done that very effectively. So I've got Joan Ong, who's the founder and CEO of We Love Supermom. And it's Asia's largest online marketplace and community for parents, babies, toddlers, and kids. Mike Hagbeck is the chief executive of StorHub Self-Storage, Space Next Door, and Storage Self-Storage. Michael wants to max out every centimeter of empty space in space-starved countries.
So I started a community, I started seminars, I invited international authors, international doctors to actually educate parents. And in the first year, it was already very, very successful. So I guess I managed to find a problem in the market and I offered solutions and it just took off from there.
I'd been to Singapore and I'd seen how squeezed up for space people in Singapore were compared to Australia especially. So I thought actually there's an interesting opportunity here. And originally I was thinking for wine storage, but then I expanded it into more general self-storage. And having, the more I saw of Asia at the time, the more convinced I was that, it's a good idea. So I relocated up to Singapore.
And in your case, Joan, it's purely online, right?
We started off offline, but over the years, we have started to move a lot of things online, which is good because with the COVID-19, we were prepared. It's like our business is not so affected because it's that we have actually progressed online quite a bit. It's that we believe a lot in online and offline integration. I mean, it's that even though online has actually moved a lot, which is good, but we also believe in the offline elements because it's like when the COVID is over, parents need to come together. They need to gather. They need to share tips. The face-to-face interaction of people cannot be removed. So we also believe a lot in omni-channel. So even though we actually have a very large marketplace, we also work with retailers to support them with their offline sales.
Could you tell me what were the processes that went through your mind in terms of trying to identify a group of potential investors?
Well, mine's slightly complicated because actually it's a property business, but also a business like a retail business on top of that. So in a sense, we're retailing space to people. So looking at property investors, you also have to find the ones that get the idea of, okay, there's a business on top and there's marketing problems and HR problems. I needed to find investors who also understood business aspect as well as just the property. Then you're looking at guys who have sufficient money, and with property, sometimes it takes a few years for the property to stabilize. So you need to find investors with a reasonably lengthy time frame. At the same time, the investors I end up speaking to, most private equity investors, they typically have like a 5, 7, 10-year time horizon. So with our business, you're really getting your money back after 5 years. You don't want to be trying to sell then because then there's no profit. So then, you're kind of ticking the boxes. Does the investor have this, this, and this, and this? And a lot of that's learning. I mean, I had an investor, we did quite well, but they only had a 5-year fund life. So we had to stop after 3 years to stabilize the business for the next 2 years so that they got the price they wanted. So understanding, what the investor wants to do, how long they can be invested, making sure they understand what you want to do tends to kind of limit the number of people you can talk to quite a lot. So it means learning for me, trying to talk to the wrong investors with the wrong pitch a lot of the time. But, the more you do, the better you get.
How would you tackle rejection if you keep, coming up with people who say, nah, your idea doesn't work?
Some investors will say, no, after you're talking to them, it might affect your morale. It might question that whether you're doing the right things, whether you should adjust your plan. But sometimes I feel that it's very important to stay on what you believe in the first place, right? And then just finding people who believe in you.
Some investors was going to say they're dumb, but I shouldn't say dumb, but they just don't really want to think like laterally. They just want to look at the numbers and then they make a decision without thinking too hard about stuff. So those ones, you shrug your shoulders and move on. And if you go through this exercise, you get rejected, but you still feel that, you know, the idea has merit, then, you know, keep on going. You know, it'd be dreadful if you had an idea and you gave up and then somebody else did that idea and they did it successfully just because you gave up. So I'd say, yeah, I mean, rejection is hard, but also don't rely on one particular investing option because there's always a failure rate. So I would say to people, don't be shy about talking to 2, 3, 4 people at once because you just don't know who's going to come through at the last minute.
What was your objective? What was your dream when you started? And at this point, has your dream sort of kept up with reality, or has reality exceeded your dream, or are you still trying to chase that dream?
Singapore is very small, so I can't fulfill my dream in Singapore. There's only 30,000 births a year and it's still going down. So to fulfill my dream is there's a need to actually venture out of Singapore, right? And that is difficult. But I guess it's like we have amassed a very good team of board of directors, advisors. We have Ko Boon Hui, you know, is like who is our advisors, giving us advice at every point of our journey.
Did you choose Boon Hui, or did he come looking for you?
It's true connection, and he loved our idea. So it was actually this was a very amazing pitch. It's just after we pitched, and then he basically asked how much you want.
Joan, how did you know your investor doesn't hijack your creative process?
Honestly, it's hard to know, right? That's why it's a lot of times when we actually speak to investors, we are very cautious. We want to know what the portfolio of companies they have invested in to ensure that it's nothing competitive. We want to ensure that, you know, it's like we know who they know in a way to kind of suss out, you know, it's like what kind of people they are. So there are actually a couple of investors that we didn't want to meet because it's we are afraid that this could happen.
Do you think the VCs and angel investors have less funds to invest by the end of this year? And how much less compared to 2019, if you'd like to hazard a guess?
Money is definitely still there. Investors right now are a little bit more, it's not a little bit, it's a lot more cautious. They no longer invest in, it's a high burn rate company that try to burn to grow and then just burn off eventually. They're looking for companies that can hit their break-even point or start making profit a lot earlier, right? So because it's like you never know what is going to happen. So there are a lot of companies who has been growing but burning a lot of money, and then it's like we see them is dying off during this COVID. So I think it's also a waking up moment for a lot of the investors. I think funds is still there, a lot of money is still there, but it's just they're a little bit they're a lot more cautious in who they choose to invest.
Do you think it'll be harder for startups to invest now, or would there be specific kinds of businesses and industries that would be more welcomed by investors?
In my opinion, is like from what we hear, from what we see, if the startup are actually working on anything that assists consumers to actually transact online or to actually improve productivity working at home, I think all these solutions are very welcome. And a lot of investors are very interested to actually look at and invest in this kind of technology.
So how much more difficult is it for a young person who has a great idea to even get a door open a crack from an investor to even hear them out? I mean, if they're looking for proven track record and all, you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
What do you recommend for the newbies trying to get into this space?
I don't know. I think it's difficult. Yeah, unless you really come from the Ivy League, the whole investing world is a little bit unfair. You know, it's like if you come from prestigious school, you come from very well-to-do family, you know, it's like you come from certain privileged group. It's just a lot easier.
Is it a bit of an elitist society, you think? In the community rather, not society? The investor crowd, I mean, they're looking at your pedigree before they would even consider throwing you a small ball.
I'm not sure it's elitist, but they're risk averse. If you tick a few boxes, then no one's going to blame them for partnering with the wrong person. So I think probably more of an element of that they don't want to get in trouble from their investors because they backed the wrong person. So I think they do have almost like a check the box approach to the people they invest with.
So that's sort of a systemic way of approaching it. But how about the investors who might actually have a gut feel about somebody? Are there many of them out there?
I'm not sure, Joan.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That is a very tough question. I'm not sure. Yeah.
So everything has fallen into a method of operation now. So it's going to be much more challenging for new startups to get into this space if that's the case. So
I mean, you're talking
friends
about
and family money, then that hopefully will start the process.
And government.
And government, yeah. But you got to jump through a fair few hoops for the government as well before you can get anything. And you may not get what you need as well.
Yeah.
So there's always that side of it.
I think my piece of advice would be, people, especially trying to get funding, need to be a bit of a storyteller. I'm not talking about pretending that Barack Obama is one of your friends, that type of story. Most investors are very good with numbers. You give them the spreadsheet, they can read through it, no problem. You don't need to tell them in month 27 we'll hit break even. What you want to be doing is saying, look, these are the trends that I'm seeing. This is how we're getting ahead of the curve. This is where we are now, and this is where we're going to get to. So you kind of, in a sense, you're a salesperson for your idea. But rather than focusing just on, the numbers obviously need to stack up. You need to know what's going to happen, but you need to, in a sense, sell the song to these guys and make it easy for them to understand the bigger picture. And, they talk about elevator pitches. That's maybe one part of it. But, when you sit down with a guy or girl who's going to invest money with you or might want to invest money with you, they want to know, who you are and how you're going to do whatever it is you're promising them. So that's not a financial conversation typically. That is like, well, this is where we are. This is where we're going to get to, and this is how I'm going to do it. How
important is it to stick with the plan? Sometimes you might be trying to propose something, but something else comes up it could be a distraction, it could be a sidetrack, it could be something totally different. Should you stick with your guns or should you see the potential in something else?
My investors, you stick to the business plan. If you want to change, you get them on board, get them to agree to it, then you change. I think if management all of a sudden goes off in a different direction to what they told investors, that's where investors start to get alarmed. So if you want them to invest more money, but you're kind of going in a different direction to what they were told originally, you're going to have problems. So, I think you need to have the discipline to follow your business plan, especially if it's working. If you see an opportunity or the business plan, a worthwhile opportunity, or your business plan's not working, then absolutely you need to pivot, but you make sure your investors come with you. You can't get too far ahead of them.